is the Forbes Books Podcast, conversations with amazing humans who are impacting the world of business and beyond. Hola, I'm Joe Partavila, and today I'm joined by author Dr. Tracee Perryman, who's also the CEO and co-founder of Center of Hope Family Services. Tracee is going to share her expertise on racial equity in education, the impact of evidence-based after-school programs, and practical strategies for engaging students and supporting parents in urban communities. Dr. Tracee Perryman, how are you today?
I am doing great. Very glad to be here.
I'm so glad you're here, and I want to start by talking about the current state of where we are as a community and as a country, but I want to frame it in the context of recognizing how far we've come. You know, Tracee, that things are not the same as they were 60 years ago. They're better, they're not perfect, and probably will never be perfect. But how do we educate people and tell people like how far we've come, but also not sort of living in the past? But what do you say about having these conversations in 2024, recognizing how far we've come?
So I think that those conversations are nuanced based upon who you're talking to. So I think that there are pockets, especially when you talk about people of color, there are pockets of persons of color who have done very well, right, in terms of educational indicators and economic indicators. Now, I will also share with you that as persons of color have progressed in those spaces and integration has taken place, it has brought on another set of issues. And so there are a lot of children of privilege of color who are also struggling in school, just like persons of color who are not as well off economically. So we have to be very, very careful about how we hold those conversations, but here's how I like to hold them. I think that struggles don't necessarily go away. They change forms in many cases, right? As we adapt to new environments and adapt to a new society, which is rapidly changing, especially in this information world we live, right? So I use the past to the future discussion with children in this way. I show them the struggles of the past, and I use it as a conversation about hope. So when we look at historically some of the things that our forebears and ancestors have gone through in terms of literacy and access to affordable and decent housing and issues with the justice system, there are so many figures from our past that have transcended those barriers. And so what I focus on are the characteristics of those individuals that put them in position to transcend those barriers. And then in many cases, those who transcended those barriers in the past felt a responsibility to give back and help those who had not necessarily benefited in the same way. So when I'm holding that discussion with others, I always look at the past and what we can extract from the past, what kind of character traits help those, our forebearers, succeed, and how can we apply them to the current times and current experiences.
Awesome. Love it. And you've used the word hope. You are the co-founder of the Center of Hope Family Services. For folks unfamiliar with it, what do you guys do there?
So Center of Hope, I'm a co-founder of Center of Hope, and we are 27 years old.
Wow.
And Center of Hope was really founded in those principles that we opened with, looking at disparities in communities of color and low-income communities, right? Because it is not just people of color who live in low-income communities or have faced barriers in wealth accumulation and setting their children up on an equal playing field to succeed. And so what we did really as a family is extracted those common elements, those common factors that build our grit, and built Center of Hope as a space where we are non-judgmental, we are welcoming to all people, but we teach those principles related to building grit, and then we advocate for some of the systemic barriers that can stand in people's way, but make sure that they always can come back to Center of Hope to get the extra skills that they need to be successful. So if education is the barrier, then we work with school systems to make sure that they're equitable or they are responsive to the needs of all children, but we provide tutoring so that they can catch up. As far as income and wealth, we do job placement work with families, but we also prepare children for a 21st century work space in addition to just doing their homework, which is sometimes what parents see. But we always look at that big picture and how our work elevates future. So not just looking at today, but looking at how we do but looking at how the things we do today set us up for a better tomorrow.
That's great. And I know you work with a lot of organizations, and then you provide evidence-based programming. Earlier, you mentioned about we live in this information age. Man, evidence comes in all shape and forms. Can be we're also living in this world of alternative truths. Where does this evidence-based program, or what is at the heart of it?
So I do hold a PhD in social work with a minor in education. And so I think that one of the greatest values of earning that PhD was learning how to be a responsible consumer of information, right? Making sure that if we select a program to use, that it's been tested rigorously on the people we intend to use the program with. You know, a lot of times in medicine, we have certain practices, certain types of medicine that's normed on men, and then we go and prescribe it to women and think it's going to work the same. We don't know that. So right. I'm in a position to ask those questions, but also doing a lot of research on promising practices that have not necessarily met the requirements for evidence-based, but we know that they work for persons of color, because a lot of research on persons of color has not been rigorously evaluated for whatever reason that is. But again, having that experiential knowledge of what develops grit for persons of color, and then scouring the writings and the research that's out there, we're able to put all of that together to provide evidence-based programming that actually translates in the community that we're intending to serve and the people we're intending to serve. And one of the values is that we've done just as well serving urban students as suburban students. We've done well with rural students, and we've been equally effective with African-American students as Caucasian students, and now doing very well with students who are Arabic. So we have been able to be diverse and actually develop and utilize programs that are effective with diverse kids and families.
Sweet. You mentioned after-school programs, and you hear about the education system now is struggling with budgets. A lot of schools are just wiping this stuff off the face of the earth. It's like so what's the current state of that? If you let people know, maybe they don't have kids right now who don't need to worry about this, but maybe they'll have kids in the future, about these after school programs. Are we worried about one day these going the way of the dodo bird, because you're going to see all these cutbacks in education in counties and local government? Tell me about the current state of the after school programs.
So that is an area that has piqued my interest, and I'm doing more study and analysis on, because there was a lot of money infused into schools based upon COVID. And so there's been a lot of talk about the fiscal cliff because those funds are drying up. There are a lot of discretionary funds through Health and Human Services, through the Department of Justice, through Title 20, I think that's under Health and Human Services. Also, other Black grants that, if they were used strategically, could definitely fill in those gaps. I think that child care centers can also be leveraged effectively. So there's still a lot of money out there. There are a lot of resources. The goal is really being able to target those resources in a way where they're meeting the needs of the children who truly need them, and they're providing the right services for the children who need them.
Right. And, not a lot of communities are created equal. Like you mentioned, suburbs and cities, but even within cities and within suburbs, there's huge differences, whether it's what makes up the population of that area, the demographics in terms of money and wealth. Like a lot, there's a lot of factors at hand. And so I know a lot of the work you do, and obviously the book Elevating Futures was a bit of a template for educators to form effective education programs. So how do you, let's go to like the sort of like development of this book. How do you develop a book like this that can be a one-stop shop for all? Not necessarily like literally showing these folks how to do it, but how do you prepare them each when they're all going to have many different hurdles that they're all going to have to jump over, and they will not be the same?
So we wrote a second book called Elevate for a More Diverse Population. And both books are really excerpts from a 28-week curriculum that is expanded to cover 7 months. And I would say that the books and the curricula have value for in-school and out-of-school educators. For out-of-school educators, pretty much it maps out the entire after-school program experience if you have the 28-week curriculum. But for school day educators, part of helping children meet academic benchmarks is setting the stage for them to learn and engage. And so I think that Elevating Futures and Elevate bring a lot of valuable information in terms of what it takes to engage children and the type of subject matter that is relevant to them and topics that speak to issues that they may not even be able to verbalize. And I think that it sets a great framework for licensed educators, trained educators to take those concepts and then apply them to the common core activities that they must complete, particularly in the area of literacy.
And you do have the receipts, as they say, because you have the data from years of doing this. And I know there was one at the end of the 2018-2019 school year, you found that 78% of students reached or exceeded their grade level standards in math, while 64% did so in reading. What do you attribute that to? I mean, obviously you you guys know what you're doing, but what is it? Because those are some big numbers. That's not like I'm saying, man, everyone's doing it. You're literally giving us the cold hard facts about how this is working.
Yeah, so specific to those numbers, those were students who were based upon growth rates. So they had a certain benchmark goal that they had to complete by a certain amount of time. And those numbers were the number of percentages of children who met those benchmarks. Well, this past year, we measured based upon children who were proficient from the beginning to the end. So we provided programming for about 6 months. 13% of our children were proficient in math when they started, 41% at the end.
Wow.
22% were proficient in reading and 48% at the end. So we're getting to a place where almost 50%, almost a 1 in 2 chance of your child leaving the program, not just doing better, not just improving, not just meeting a benchmark goal, but actually being proficient and at grade level. So those receipts have continued to come in even since 2018. Yes, I think trained staff is very important. But I think even back to what we talked about earlier, understanding the spirit of what we're trying to do is so important. I think one of the challenges that we've had as a nation is that we've looked at the letter. Were they proficient or were they not? Okay. And we're going to use these strategies to drill them to proficiency, right? Without the understanding of the holistic needs of the child and the context that these children are coming to our spaces in. So you have to reach one almost before you can teach one. So we've been very, very, very effective in that space. Also being fluid and really, really, really digging into what's happening. We are using assessment tools that are real time. Every week, we're looking at the activity on these platforms and saying who is faring well and who is not. For those who are not, where are they struggling and why are they struggling? So when we're providing real-time responsiveness, rather than letting things go until the end of the quarter and then, oh, by the way, we've seen there's a problem. I think staying on top of the data in real time and creating solutions in real time has been very, very effective. Also making sure that children can see what they want to be. So to us, going to college and earnings, those things matter. They're more concrete because we're older. To a 6-year-old going to college and making money and having their own home is not necessarily a concrete concept. So making sure that you have theater and enrichment and other things to help them see themselves in careers and linking it to their interest, and them being able to explain to them how the things that they're doing in terms of their studies relate to what they like, and then how they're going to be able to do more of what they like as they get older. I think those are some place to start.
And we talked about students. Let's talk about the educator part of it, because, and I don't know if it's like this now, but I remember as a kid, my gym teacher also taught like sex ed, just because there was no one else around to do that. And so are these teachers equipped now in 2024 to handle a program like this? How much is this an ask of the teachers on the ground? Because we all know they're overworked and underpaid. How much more is this making their lives easier? Is it becoming more fulfilling? Tell me about what it's like from the educator's point of view.
So I could say, as we're an after-school educator, our curriculum package is completely spelled out. So they have everything at their disposal. And so what we set internally is professional development each week, where they run through the curriculum with oversight from management, and then we give them tools and strategies to make it effective and make it better. I'll also provide them a lot of professional development in terms of classroom management. So I would say from the after-school perspective, it makes their jobs a lot easier. And for those who still find this challenging, I am in the process of developing a learning management system where the Elevate curriculum actually will be taught by me. And it's almost, but it will run like a television show more so than some of the software we see as cartoons and as stock images. There's somebody actually talking to them across the screen. But there's also opportunities for them to plug, answer questions, hit buttons. There are stories. There are actual Elevate characters that they follow throughout the entire theme. And then other opportunities for them to dance. We have Elevate branded music that I write. And so we give them different instructions on what to do with colorful graphics where they can have fun. So even if you have a shortage of educators, it can be used in a larger group setting where it's on the screen, and then there's a facilitator that makes sure that all of the children attend to what's going on the screen.
That's great. And another thing that students have to deal with that I didn't was social media. Now, how do you meet these students where they are? Because I've spoken to educators and actually tech education platforms that have to have this sort of like frame of mind of like, let's meet them where they are. Because there's always been this argument of like, less tech for these kids at school. Let's let them, read a book instead of like holding an iPad. But then there's tech companies that are like, no. The kids, all they know is tablets. So let's put the education on the tablet. Let's meet them where they are. How does social media technology fit in all of this? And I guess the current state of education?
One of the predictors of poor outcomes for children is not so much the use of the technology itself, but the amount of screen time and the quality of screen time. So technology in and of itself is not a bad thing, but it's about what they're using it for. So I think with social media, the problem, technology is a tool, but it's the excessive socializing and the type of socializing that's taking place on social media that is really at the root of most of the problems. So what we do internally is focus on media literacy and teaching children what algorithms are and why they're there and how they enhance their moods for the positive or the negative, number one. So where we can teach children to be informed consumers of technology and social media is very important. I also think that technology brings some opportunities, right? Because children can self-direct their learning. They can look up, they can investigate for themselves if the activities are administered and supervised properly. So I think we can reach children in a way that we might not have been able to in the past, because we can attend to diversity of learning styles in unique ways and learning pace in unique ways. I think that it's very important to take technology and apply it to real world problems that they have to solve, and then give them opportunities to explain their processes. And then we still can infuse that higher order thinking. We can still discuss memory. We can discuss all of those other important pieces of learning without getting rid of technology, and use technology as it's supposed to be, which is an enhancement.
And so how do we thread this needle You mentioned social media there because recently you quoted a study that said nearly half of girls aged 13 to 17 reported that social media made them feel worse about their bodies. So we understand that technology is a tool that can help them, but you know as well as I do, Tracee, you can't avoid these apps. They're on their phone. They could access them on laptops or tablets. How do we work our way around that where we're helping the children because they have this access to this vast amount of technology and networking? I mean, let's not forget the networking aspect of social media, that they can meet people outside of their community with like interests, like backgrounds, but then also there's this negative side to it as well.
So what I would recommend, first of all, is bring them together to garner their thoughts about what's going on, okay? And thoughts about body image and thoughts about what they're seeing. And give them opportunities to think about the situation a little different, challenge their thinking on it, especially if they buy into those perceptions that are pushed on social media. And then also, I think children are not too young to be involved as the agent of change. I think we should teach them how to use their influencing skills, which most of them have because they've watched it so long for good. Okay, well, that doesn't have to be the last word on body image. Here, let's come together. What do you think? Let's capture your thoughts as a counter narrative. Let's capture some diverse images as a counter narrative and then bring people together who can tie it together, put together videos and things like that. And through our own after school programs, we can start to publish our children's work and we can be a part of the change, the positive change we want to see too. And we can use social media to flip those negative perceptions and involve the children in it.
Great. And so we talked to the kids, got students, we talked about teachers. Let's talk about the third leg of that stool, parents. And one of the weird things that kind of came out of the pandemic was how it was sort of like the understood secret that basically education was a form of babysitting. Like it was the thing where when schools closed down, parents were like, what am I supposed to do with my kid? I got to go to work and now they're going to be home all day. This is going to change my life. And so I think we all kind of understood that school in some way was a form of childcare in terms of babysitting. But then you realize how important a role it plays in just especially single income households, families that are cash strapped, families maybe working multiple jobs each. So from the parent side, how do they play a role in this where they're already stretched thin? I mean, we talk about teachers being stretched thin. We know parents are stretched incredibly thin. So let's talk about the parents aspect there.
Yeah, so we hold monthly workshops for parents to keep them up to date on strategies, hacks that help them manage their time, streamline activities, and support their children. And so it's been very successful. We also provide cooking classes, how you can select affordable and quick dishes to help you manage time and meet the needs of your families. And so a couple things we've done in that regard. So we did a workshop on setting up a schedule. So no, it's going to be hard work no matter how you slice it as a parent. But what are some things that can lighten the load or help you to do more with what you have? So we've done workshops on scheduling that have been helpful, helping parents understand what's developmentally appropriate, because a lot of parents did not think children could help around the house till they were 8 or 9 years old. They didn't know that there were things that 2-year-olds could do. A lot of parents didn't understand the importance of independence and self-management skills for children and how soon you could start teaching them. Parents did not know how to integrate learning into quiet time. So we've connected them with resources like Baby First TV, Jewels TV, and different episodes that are relatable to children they love to watch. It teaches them literacy and other skills, but also gives parents time to cook dinner so where children are orderly. I have researched different games for children that can all be played with K to 2. So they want mommy time. They want to be involved in games. Okay, well, how can we teach literacy and also do the things that you want? We've helped them put together a set of reward systems so that children understand before we can go and have fun on Saturdays. These are the things that need to be done first, and learning healthy boundaries for both sides. We have raffled off storage for children, shelves with color-coded bins so each child can keep track of their own stuff. We're going to be raffling off ottomans next month. So if you have unexpected visitors, how can you pick up your living room really quick when you have small children and still have eating and have something that's cute? So yes, that's where we've been able to support, because we hear a lot of overwhelmed parents, and there are a lot of things that can be done to help. But because of the way education has moved, we don't necessarily have as much time for life skills in traditional education. So we teach it now, and it's a community to share different things that work for different people.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so good. We mentioned the word hope is a big part of what you do, but the other word that's very important to what you're doing is elevate. You have 3 books: Elevating Women Leaders, Elevate, and Elevating Futures. We all kind of get what the word means, but what does the word elevate mean to Dr. Tracee Perryman?
Okay, so here's what I tell my staff all the time. This program is called Elevate, not stagnate, not deflate. So we are always aiming higher, right? And whatever higher means for the person. So I think in a sense, elevate is a challenge. It signifies challenge, but it also signifies hope, because for the child that can't necessarily get the A yet, well, if you elevated your score and you're doing better than you were yesterday, that's something to celebrate. So it's a source of challenge, but it's also a source of hope and encouragement.
I love that. Dr. Tracee Perryman, if folks want to find out more about what you do and how you do it, what's the best place to start?
So to find out about Center of Hope, you can go to Facebook, and it's at COHF, as in Frank, S. And I also have, it's a movement I built, it's called Sassy Boss, because there are a lot of ongoing conversations about women leadership and how to balance all these demands. And it's a lot to mentor every individual person. So on Facebook, it's at Sassy Boss DRP. And I am putting out hacks and motivations at least 3 days a week. So you can follow up as a woman on things that you can do to become a more effective leader, and how you can more efficiently run your household and stay up to date on what's happening in the education world.
Dr. Tracee Perryman, thanks for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that'll do it for another Forbes Books podcast. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify and hit subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes. You can always connect with me on X, LinkedIn, or Instagram at Joe Pardavila. And please don't forget the golden rule and treat others as you want to be treated. Thanks for listening. Until next time, adios.